What's up, BLA Summer Blast? Brother Patel coming at you one more time. Hope you got your novel ready with Maniac Magee. We're going to start this one at chapter 7. Hope you got your 6 signpost bookmark ready to go, because we're not just going to passively read the story, but we're going to be on the lookout for contrasts and contradictions, aha moments, tough questions, words of the wiser, again and again, and memory moments that the author puts in there to help tell us that something is important. Get your notes ready. I know mine are. And here we go. Chapter 7 with Maniac Magee. When Jeffrey Magee was next spotted, it was at the Little League field in the park. A Little League game had just ended. The Red Sox had won, but the big story was John McNabb, who struck out 16 batters to set a new 2 Mills LL record, LL standing for Little League. McNabb was a giant. He stood 5 feet 8 and was said to weigh over 170 pounds. He had to bring in his birth certificate into the league director to prove he was only 12. And still most people didn't believe it. The point is, the rest of the league was no match for McNabb. It wouldn't have been so bad if he had been a right fielder, but he was a pitcher, and there was only one pitch he ever threw, a fastball. Most of the batters never saw it. They just heard it whizzing past their noses. You could see their knees shaking from the stands. One poor kid stood there long enough to hear strike one go past, then threw up all over home plate. It was still pretty light out, because when there are a lot of strikeouts, a game goes fast. And McNabb was still on the mound, even though the official game was over. He figured he'd make baseball history, and he wanted to stretch it out as long as he could. There were still about 10 players around, Red Soxers and Green Soxers, and McNabb was making them march up to the plate and take their swings. There was no catcher. The ball just zoomed to the backstop. When a kid struck out, he went back to the end of the line. Oh, McNabb was loving it. After each whiff, he laughed and bellowed the strikeout total. 26, 27, 28. He was like a shark. He had the blood lust. The victims were hunched and trembling, walking the gangplank. 34, 35. And then somebody new stepped up to the plate. Just a punky, runty little kid, no Red Sox or Green Sox uniform, kind of scraggly, with a book which he laid down on home plate. He scratched out a footing in the batter's box, cocked the bat on his shoulder, and stared at McNabb. So I'm going to pause right here, because did you notice a signpost right there? Say, yeah, I hope so. I hope you kind of noticed the contrasts and contradictions signpost, because here's the kid with the book, which we know is Maniac Magee. McNabb doesn't know it yet. Say he's never met this kid. But yeah, he's kind of gone, and he's going to, it looks like he's going to take a swing, trying to hit a ball that McNabb is throwing. So there we go. Let's say there's our contrast or contradiction on page 23. Jeffrey trying to hit McNabb's fastball. So we want to ask ourselves, why would the character act this way? Why would he feel this way? So here's kind of what I was thinking when I came across this. Maybe Jeffrey's just trying to find a place to fit in, or just have a little fun. I mean, he is a kid after all, but I think it's more that he's trying to find a place to fit in. Remember, he was at the Pickwells place earlier. He was at the Finsterwald. So maybe he's just going to all these places and doing these things to try and find a spot to fit in. Let's keep reading. McNabb croaked from the mound. "Get out of here, runt. This is a Little League record. You ain't in Little League." The kid walked away. Was he chickening out? No. He was lifting a red cap from the next batter in line. He put it on. He was back in the box. McNabb almost fell off the mound. He was laughing so hard. "Okay, runt, number 36 coming up." McNabb fired. The kid swung. The batters in line automatically turned their eyes to the backstop where the ball should be, but it wasn't there. It was in the air, riding on a beeline right out to McNabb's head, the same line it came in on, only faster. McNabb froze. then flinched just in time. The ball missed his head but nipped the bill of his cap and sent it spinning like a flying saucer out to shortstop. The ball landed in the second base dust and rolled all the way to the fence in center field. Dead silence. Nobody moved. McNabb was gaping at the kid, who was still standing there all calm and cool, waiting for the next pitch. Finally, a sort of grin slithered across McNabb's lips. He roared, "Get my hat. Get the ball." 10 kids scrambled onto the field, bringing him the hat and ball. McNabb had it figured now. He was so busy laughing at the runt, he lobbed him a lollipop, and the runt got lucky and pulled it. Okay, so I'm going to pause right there because I just ran into another signpost that the author is talking about. You want to be on the lookout for phrases like this if somebody figures it out. Because if you're looking at your bookmark right there, if somebody finally realizes, understands, or figures something out, that's an aha moment. So you want to stop and ask yourself, how might this change things? So right here, McNabb has kind of figured out why the kid, Maniac Magee, was able to hit the ball. So we go into our notes right there. Say on page 24, there's an aha moment. McNabb had given Jeffrey an easy pitch. That's why he hit it. And so we need to go to our anchor question. How might this change things? So here's what I'm thinking. McNabb's going to try even harder to strike the kid out now. He just got embarrassed in front of everybody because he had struck out 36 guys in a row. And here's this little punk kid who comes in, doesn't even belong to a team, and he actually got a hit. So I think McNabb's going to try even harder to strike the kid out than he already was. Let's see if I'm right. This time McNabb wasn't laughing. He fingered the ball, tips digging into the red stitching. He wound, he fired, he thought, man, that sucker's going so fast, even I can hardly see it. And then he was looking up, turning, following the flight of the ball, which finally came down to earth in deep left center field and bounced onto the fence. Once more, silence, except from someone who yelped, "Yip!" then caught himself. "Ball!" bellowed McNabb. He was handed the ball. He slammed his hat to the ground. His nostrils flared. He was breathing like a picador bull. He windmilled, reared, lunged, fired. This time the ball cleared the fence on the fly. No more holding back. The other kids cheered. Somebody ran for the ball. They were anxious for more now. 3 more pitches, 3 more home runs. Okay, so right there, 3 more pitches, 3 more home runs. What signpost do you think is happening there? Yeah, hopefully if you're looking at your bookmark right there, that's kind of when you notice something like a situation being repeated, and that's what's happening right there. The same situation is being repeated. McNabb is throwing the ball, and he's hitting home run, and Maniac is hitting home run after home run after home run. So you kind of want to stop and ask yourself when that happens, why might the author bring this up again and again? So I think that maybe it's because he wants to show us how good Maniac is at baseball, but I still think it kind of goes back to that main idea that I thought of earlier. He's building up the legend of Maniac and just how awesome Maniac is and just how the things he does, no one else can do. He was running on the rail of the railroad track, earlier. He intercepted a pass from the football player with a book in his hand the whole time. And now he's getting these home runs off a pitcher that nobody else can hit. So he's kind of just building up, the author is building up the legend. So let's see what happens next. Pandemonium on the sidelines. It was raining red and green hats. McNabb couldn't stand it. The next time he threw, it was right at the kid's head. The kid ducked. McNabb called, "Strike 1." Next pitch headed for the kid's belt. The kid bent his stomach around the ball. "Strike 2." Strike 3 took dead aim at the kid's knees, and here was the kid, swooping back and at the same time swatting at the ball like a golfer teeing off. It was the craziest baseball swing you ever saw, but there was the ball smoking out to center field. "Hold it, runt," snarled McNabb. "I can't pitch right when I got a whiz." The kids on the sideline made way as McNabb stomped off the field, past the dugout, and into the woods between the field and the creek. They waited a pretty long time, but they figured, well, McNabb's whiz probably would last longer than a regular kid's. Might even make the creek rise. So I'm going to pause right here because I've definitely spotted another signpost, okay? Do you know what it is? Okay, the one I spotted is a contrast or contradiction. When a character does something that doesn't match with what I'd expect, so McNabb goes to pee, say, right in the middle of this baseball game where he's pitching. So I want to go back to my notes, say, and write that down, insert them. On page 25, there's a contrast and contradiction. McNabb's got to pee all of a sudden, LOL, I think that's pretty funny. Say, and you look at the anchor question, why would the character act that way? And here are my thoughts. I think that McNabb must be up to something. I mean, no one would just have to go potty in the middle of such a big moment in such a big game. So I think McNabb's really doing something else and not really, going to urinate, because it does say he's been gone a pretty long time. So let's find out what happens next. At last, McNabb was back on the mound, fingering the ball in his glove, a demon's gleam in his eye. He wound up, fired. The ball headed for the plate, and what's this? A leg ball? It's got legs, long legs, pinwheeling toward the plate. It wasn't a ball at all. It was a frog, and McNabb was on the mound cackling away, and the kid at the plate was bug-eyed. Nobody ever tried to hit a fast frog before. So what'd the kid do? He bunted it. He bunted the frog, laid down a perfect bunt in front of the plate, third base side, and he took off for first. He was halfway to second before McNabb jolted himself into action. The kid was trying for an inside-the-park home run bunt, the rarest feat in baseball, something that had hardly ever been done with a ball and never with a frog. And to be the pitcher who let such a thing happen? Well, McNabb could already feel his strikeout record fading to a mere grain in the sandlot of history. So he lumbered off the mound after the frog, which was now hopping down the third baseline. As a matter of fact, it was so close to the line that McNabb had a brilliant idea. Just herd the frog across the line and it would be a foul ball, or frog, which is what he tried to do with his foot. But the frog, instead of taking a left turn with his shoe, jumped over it and hopped on towards third base. He was heading for the green fields of left, and the runt kid, sounding like two runners with his flat soles slapping the bottoms of his feet, was chucking dust for third. Only one hope now. McNabb had to grab the frog and tag the runner out. But now the frog shot through his legs over the mound, and now towards shortstop, and now towards second. And McNabb was lurching and lunging, throwing his hat at the frog, throwing his glove, and everybody was screaming, and the kid was rounding third and digging for home, and unbefroggable, the ball was heading back home too. The ball, the batter, the pitcher, all racing for home plate, and it was the batter, the new kid out of nowhere, who crossed the plate first, at the same time scooping up his book, twirling his borrowed red cap back to the cheering others, and jogging on past the empty stands and up the hill to the boulevard. McNabb, gasping, croaked after him, "Don't stop till you're out of town, runt. Don't let me ever catch you." And that's how Jeffrey Magee, knocked the world's first frog ball for a 4-bagger. And so at this point, I've actually caught another signpost here as I think about kind of everything. So this is what I put right here, as you can see. Jay, or these are notes, so I'm just going to abbreviate with Jay. He's doing uncommon stunts. He just did this thing with a baseball where he bunted a frog for a home run. He was outside Finsterwald's reading a book and rescuing that kid. He was at the Pickwells coming for dinner. We already talked about the football. So I got to ask myself, why might the author bring this up again and again? And I've kind of hinted at this before. I think it's because the author's building up the legend or building up the myth of Jeffrey, or Maniac. He's mentioning all the cool stuff he does. So keep reading, keep going. Loved this chapter. I thought it was awesome, and I hope you like the next ones as well. Peace!